So today, as I often do, I have my radio station set up on a window ledge, and today I'm sharing it with the seed potatoes that will be planted out soon in our allotment. Anyway, aside from that, I recently found my logbook from the 1970s going up to 1980, which stops just before I had my 40-year break from amateur radio. It's hard to believe I'm actually saying that, but it's been 40 years, and what I remembered was right at the end of that period I had started using some VHF repeaters, which were a bit of a novelty then. Anyway, all this time later I have the FT817 and I can't believe just how much this radio can do, and I wondered if I could use it on VHF. I'm mainly a CW Morse code type of person most of the time. So anyway, I had a listen around when I first bought it. I couldn't hear anything at all, and I wondered if it was any use here in the middle of nowhere. But recently I spoke to someone who knows more about this than I do, who pointed out to me that there are two repeaters set up at Cheddar, which, if you look through the window in the far distance, is another set of hills beyond this one. And there's a VHF and a UHF repeater, and he thought I ought to be able to contact those repeaters. So I've given it a try, and in a moment I'll show you how I got on and how I set it up. And the first thing I did though was to check my FT817 on VHF, because I'd used it on HF and so on, and I wanted to check the power output and make sure that everything was okay before I used it. So let's take a look at that first. The FT817 is switched on, it's on FM, and it's on the 2 meter band, ready to go. And I have it connected to my recently purchased MFJ power meter, obviously set to VHF and plugged in appropriately, and that's feeding the signal back out to my homemade dummy load, so that should be fine for a test. I've got it on the 5-watt scale, and if I press push to talk, we have nearly 5 watts on full power, so that's fine. I'm not going to fiddle with that. The next one down should give me 2.5. Oh, just over, so I'm not going to worry about that either, but it's good enough. I just really want to make sure nobody's pushed this radio too hard. The next one down about 1 watt, yes, we're nearly there. And the lowest one should be about 0.5 watt. And that's great. So I'm very happy with that. And now I'm going to go ahead and see if I can set up and use a local repeater. So I've detached from the power meter and so on and put the standard rubber duck antenna onto the FT817, and my local repeater is called GB3WR, Mendip Hills. So I'm just going to find that frequency first, which is 145.6. I've just looked it up. And I've also discovered that the receiver input is 0.6 lower. So the first thing I'm going to do is press menu and repeater, and if I press repeater I have a choice of plus or minus. So I'm going for minus because it's going to be lower. Before I go on, here's a brief summary of the main steps for anyone doing this for the first time, like I did recently. The details are on page 36 of the operating manual, and the setup begins by finding row 4 of the operating functions. That's one short click of the F button and then turn the select control. Press A to choose a positive or negative shift for the repeater input frequency. So for example, my repeater has a shift of 0.6 MHz lower, so I need to see the minus sign. If the repeater needs a tone, then press C to activate that, and you should see T on the display. The repeater shift and tone settings are in menus 42 and 48, and you can reach those quickly by either holding down A or C or by going straight into the functions menu. So now let's go back to the video and see that demonstrated. So now I'm going to hold the A key, because as we know that will take you to more menus, and it shows me the repeater shift and it's actually already set to 0.6 megahertz, and I think that's because I set up another one on my trip to Devon recently. While I'm in these menus, I'm going to move up to menu number 48 because I need to set a tone frequency, and I looked up that that's 94.8, so that should be here somewhere. 94.8, that's done. So those two things are set, minus 0.6 of a shift and 94.8. So they're set. So we now should be working on that repeater. So I can see that now I'm listening, and when I push to talk, it switches to the input frequency, and I've triggered the repeater. You can hear it going beep. In a minute it'll shut down again, I think. Oh, so people are using the repeater, and I triggered it, so it's all happening. So now let's set that as a stored memory so we can use it. So I'll go back to this early menu. Oh, there's the call sign of the repeater again, and if I press MW, I now need to find an empty slot. There's one, M12, memory 12, so I press that, and I can set the name of the repeater. So let's do that, and I won't bore you with all the process while I do it, but I'll come back to it. Okay, so that's set up. So now all I have to do is press the preset, and there I am with the minus, repeater shift, the tone, and the name of the repeater set up. And if I go back, there's my other repeater, the UHF one, which is already set up, and that responds immediately when I press push to talk. So it looks like I'm all set up to use the local repeater. Nothing at the moment, but I did hear somebody a bit earlier. So that's all been a big success, and I'm ready to go. So I'm now ready to communicate on VHF, and as ever I've discovered just how amazing the FT817 is. I can use it on VHF, I can reach 2 local repeaters, and I've used them a bit. On a recent trip to Devon, I logged into a repeater there, and of course this is coming to its own. I can just fold up the portable legs that I made for the FT817, and it's got its built-in 18650 battery set that I made, so I'm all set up for some portable work in VHF whenever I like. So I'm very happy again with my FT817, and I'm going to go now and give it a bit more try and see if I can make some VHF contacts. I'll be back soon with more videos, and I hope you're enjoying your projects too.